Hello Zero Books readers. In this YouTube video, we'll be returning to what the late Mark Fisher called Capitalist Realism, and we'll be examining Charlie Brooker's darkly futuristic television show, Black Mirror, in order to discover to what extent the anthology series fits within the Capitalist Realist genre. Black Mirror, modeled as it is on classic television series like The Twilight Zone, Amazing Stories, or Tales of the Unexpected, has tackled an array of social phenomena and societal ills. Brooker describes the show as being about, quote, the way we live now and the way we might be living in 10 minutes' time if we're clumsy. Most of the episodes focus on how digital technology is altering our lives, and not for the better. The Entire History of You, Be Right Back, White Christmas, 15 Million Merits, and Nosedive all include plots or subplots involving internet culture, but the last two go beyond critiquing Facebook, augmented reality, pop-up ads, and their surveillance state that is making it all possible. In 15 Million Merits and Nosedive is not only our technology, not only our politics, but what Marx would call the mode of production, or what normal people might call economics, that is deconstructed and exposed. Those two episodes feature something like a socialist critique, a critique of capitalism itself. But just what is capitalism, or what is the nature of capitalism? How should we describe it? The late Mark Fisher, author of Capitalist Realism, described it this way. He said that capitalism is an abstract parasite, an insatiable vampire and zombie maker. But the living flesh it converts into dead labor is ours, and the zombies it makes are us. Now, this description might be a helpful analogy for a science fiction satirist or a purveyor of horror stories, but even after we have this answer, the question of why capitalism is like a zombie movie remains. So we have to ask it again, ask what capitalism is again. There are many ways to describe it. Some say capitalism is what you get when modern conditions of industrial production prevail. Others say it is a system of oppression, whereby many different kinds of people are excluded from social life. And others claim that capitalism is imperialistic. The capitalists are invaders, and their aim is to steal the oil, acquire the land, and generally to accumulate the wealth of other nations. All of this is true. But what Marx said, among many other things, is that capitalism is a system whereby a surplus is created through a process of commodity production and exchange. Putting it as abstractly as possible, Marx wrote that capitalism has a formula, and that formula can be written out like this: M to C to M prime. Capitalism is, as Marx wrote, a process wherein more money is withdrawn from circulation at the finish than was thrown in at the start. That result, the creation of money by spending money, is the one big aim of capitalism. Capitalism is the transformation of money into more money through investment in the production of commodities. Edmund Berger described the circular and self-reinforcing process of capitalism in his book, Uncertain Futures. He wrote, "The goal of the individual capitalist is to sell the output of production on the market in exchange for money, the ultimate goal of which is to realize a profit, and a portion of this profit always goes back into production in order to allow production to continue again. And this production continues so that the capitalist can realize a profit, and the profit is reinvested so that the capitalist can continue production, and the production is aimed at making a profit, and so on." Capitalism is a bit like the game Cookie Clicker, wherein you make cookies in order to buy items like rolling pins and grandmothers and nuclear-powered bakeries so that you can speed up the production of cookies. The more cookies you have, the more cookies you'll need to invest in order that you may make more and more cookies. Brooker tackles this circular and absurd aspect of capitalism in the Black Mirror episode entitled 15 Million Merits, taking place in a dystopian future where everyone lives deep underground and rides exercise bikes for a living, the episode is what you might get if you mashed E.M. Forster's 100-plus-year-old short story, The Machine Stops, with Gilligan's Island. The main characters are workers whose labor provides them with just enough merits or money to purchase diversions from the monotony of their lives. The workers get to pick whatever compensatory fantasy they most desire and then watch it unfold on video screens as they pedal. And the really ambitious workers save their merits in order to buy their way onto widely popular talent shows. The frugal and talented are sometimes able to stop pedaling and become the on-screen diversions their fellow workers need. It is as if Brooker took the opening lines of Guy Debord's Society of the Spectacle and rendered them in literal or concrete detail. That is, he took the assertion that in societies where modern conditions of productions prevail, all of life presents itself as an immense accumulation of spectacles. The idea that everything that was directly lived has moved away into representation, literally. Debord's opening was a détournement, or a derailing, of Marx's opening from Capital. That is, Marx wrote that the wealth of those societies in which capitalist modes of production prevails presents itself as an immense accumulation of commodities, and he defined a commodity as a useful item produced in order to create a surplus for the capitalist. That is, for Marx, there was a formula. For Marx, what drove society was that insatiable aim of creating more money from money through the production of commodities. Whereas for Debord, the aim of society was to channel your desires into the realm of mere representation. Considering this difference between Marx and Debord, it's fair to say that the episode 15 Million Merits tells the story of an ideological spectacle. That is, the spectacle diverts people's political impulses away from resistance or revolution. The screens keep people from leaving their bicycles. But in the Black Mirror episode Nosedive, we get a little closer to a true society of the spectacle. That is, if we try to imagine an economy rather than a merely political spectacle, the first episode of the third season, an episode called Nosedive, gets us closer to that goal. Now, technically, there still is a world of work and money, but the plot doesn't involve those aspects of society. In the world of the plot, the characters aren't motivated by money, but by representations of themselves. The characters create images of themselves. They represent themselves to the world and to each other by posting and liking things on social media, and the accumulation of stars that they receive, their average score, determines where they can live, how they can travel, what kind of career they might achieve, and so on. The story of Nosedive isn't a story of exploitation. It isn't a story about that M to C to M1 circuit, but a much more human story. What matters in the world of Nosedive isn't your merits, but your merit. Or what really matters is how people see you, how they judge your merit. What matters are your relationships, even if those relationships have more of a quantitative than a qualitative character. This is a world of phony smiles and photographs of cookies, but a photograph of a cookie is at least tangible and socially useful. One of the goals of Guy Debord's Situationist International was to realize art. That is, the aim was to erase the barrier between art and life. Debord wrote that the abolition and realization of art are inseparable aspects of a single goal, the transcendence of art.
They want to not only negate art, but in the way Debord put it, also realize it, which is to say, make of daily life a creative, continuously original, delirious, ecstatic experience.
Debord wrote that the abolition and realization of art were inseparable aspects of a single goal, the transcendence of art and the creation of life as an art. But what Black Mirror shows us is that this aim to transcend art and realize life as an art can be perhaps misunderstood as an aim to realize artifice. Strangely, Nosedive is one of the few episodes of Black Mirror with something like a happy ending, even if it is the kind of happy ending that drug addicts and born-again Christians talk about. When Lacey Pound, the protagonist, finally loses all of her stars, when she becomes a zero and is locked up, it's unclear if she's been arrested because she is so unpopular, or if she's so unpopular because she's been arrested. Either way, she finds something like an authenticity. She finds her way back to a real social existence only after she's lost all connection to the economy of her social world. Here's the evolution of the Black Mirror critique. In 15 Million Merits, the system neutralizes and imprisons the worker who tries to break free of his society by attacking himself. Instead of bringing down the powers that be, this threat to end his own life elevates his status. He lands in a gilded cage, totally neutralized. In Nosedive, on the other hand, the main character never rebels against society directly, but only turns against herself. And it's only after she's landed herself in prison that she starts to be free enough to become any kind of threat to the system. Both episodes end in defeat, but in Nosedive the main character is redeemed by her loss, while in 15 Million Merits the hero is more thoroughly devastated. Does Black Mirror fit within the Capitalist Realist genre? Not entirely, but if the program continues on, if it's going to break free of Capitalist Realism altogether, the challenge will be to write a story wherein the characters are redeemed by winning. And if we're going to get beyond the M to C to M1 circuit of capitalism, we'll have to imagine a society where the apparatuses that mediate our lives, the structures that bring us together to produce and reproduce our world, are less rather than more alienating than the capitalist equation. We'll have to see if there is a way to build a world on smiles and sentiment, desire and culture, without building a new, even worse, dystopian nightmare.